I wasn't supposed to be there that late. The shop was supposed to close at 6, but the rain had come down early, heavy, unrelenting, and I didn't have it in me to lock the door just yet. There's something about the sound of rain on metal roofs that slows time down, makes silence louder. That's when she walked in. She wasn't the kind of person you expect to wander into a small-town auto repair shop after dark. Mid-40s, maybe older, in a long, tan coat that had seen better days, hair damp and curling near her neck. She carried herself with the kind of calm people pretend to have when they're holding something heavier underneath. "Sorry, I didn't think you'd still be open," she said, looking around like the place made her nervous. "We're not," I said, then caught myself. "I mean, we're technically closed, but it's fine. What's up?" She smiled, barely. "My car wouldn't start. It's parked right out there. I think it's the battery." There was a hesitation before she added, quieter, "I didn't want to call anyone else." Something about the way she said that stuck in the air. I grabbed my jacket and followed her outside. The rain was still falling, thin now, like it was trying not to be noticed. She stood beside an old silver sedan, hands tucked in her pockets, watching me the way people watch a storm they can't predict. I popped the hood, leaned in, and started checking connections. "Long day?" I asked, mostly to fill the quiet. She gave a short laugh. "Long month." Then, after a beat, "You?" "Same," I said, though I don't think I have as much to complain about. She tilted her head at that, curious, not condescending. "You look tired, though. How old are you?" 26. She smiled again, the kind that didn't show teeth, but lingered anyway. Still too young to sound that tired. Something small tightened in my chest, and I couldn't think of anything to say. I just kept working, pretending I didn't feel her eyes on me. The car came to life after a few minutes. The engine hummed, steady and clean. She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for longer than she meant to. "You're good at this," she said. I shrugged. "Just been doing it a while." She nodded, like she wanted to say something else but didn't. The headlights painted her in soft gold, the rain turning into mist around her. For a second, it looked like she didn't belong to the same world as everything else, too composed, too aware. Then she did something small, but it caught me completely off guard. She reached out and placed her hand lightly on my wrist. "Thank you," she said. It wasn't the touch itself, it was how long it lasted. Just a second too long to be nothing. Not long enough to mean anything definite. Still, it was enough to change the temperature of the air around us. Her hand fell away, and she stepped back quickly, clearing her throat. "I owe you for this," she said, almost like an apology. "Don't worry about it," I murmured, but she was already looking past me, toward the rain, like she needed to hide her face from something. When she finally drove off, the sound of her tires faded into the distance, but that touch didn't. I stood there under the dripping awning, watching the taillights disappear through the fog, wondering why my wrist still felt warm. And for some reason, I couldn't shake the thought. She hadn't needed to say thank you like that. Not unless she meant something else entirely. She came back 3 days later. The rain had cleared, but the air still carried that aftertaste of dampness, the kind that clings to everything, even people. I was wiping grease off a wrench when I saw her standing by the doorway again, sunlight slipping through the glass and catching the edges of her hair. "You again," I said, trying not to sound too surprised. Her mouth curved. "Don't look so alarmed. I'm not here to break anything this time." She held up a thermos and a small paper bag. "Peace offering. Coffee and whatever these are." Whatever these are turned out to be scones, still warm. She placed them on the counter, and I noticed her hands, steady, long-fingered, faint ink smudge near her thumb. The kind of detail that didn't matter, but for some reason, it did. "Thought you might be here early," she said, glancing around the shop. "You look like the type who doesn't sleep much." I laughed. "You'd be right." She didn't smile back, not really. Her gaze drifted to the floor, and for a moment, she looked smaller than she had before. "I don't either," she said softly. There was a pause. I could have asked why, but I didn't. Instead, I poured us both coffee. She leaned against the counter, fingers tapping the rim of her cup. "Do you live nearby?" I asked. She nodded. "A few streets over. Used to be further out, but," her voice thinned out. "Closer is easier these days." "Easier. Less to explain," she said, half smiling, though it wasn't a happy one. We stood there in that unsteady quiet, both pretending the silence wasn't heavy. Every sound, the clock, The drip of oil, her soft breathing, seemed sharper. When she finally spoke again, her voice was lower. It's strange, isn't it? How some places make you feel safer than you should. I didn't know if she was talking about the shop, or me, or just the space between us. She looked up, met my eyes, and then quickly looked away. A flicker of something unreadable crossed her face. Regret? Fear? I couldn't tell. But it was the first time I saw the crack in her composure. She tried to hide it by sipping her coffee, but her hand trembled slightly. Hey, I said quietly. You okay? She let out a breath. It's just been a lot lately. Then, with a small shrug, I shouldn't have come. Her voice faltered. There was nothing to fix, no car to work on this time. But I wanted to help anyway, and there was nothing practical I could offer. Just presence. So I nodded once. Then don't say anything. Just stay for a bit. She gave a tiny laugh, the first real one I'd heard from her, and set her cup down. Careful, she murmured. That's how people start needing things they shouldn't. I didn't answer. I just watched the way the light touched her face, and how tired her eyes looked when she thought no one noticed. And as she turned to leave, I caught myself wishing the door would stick, just for a second longer, so she'd have to stay. It was supposed to be quick. She'd stopped by to drop off a check for the last repair. But the rain had started again, soft at first, then pounding. I told her to wait it out inside. She hesitated, said she didn't want to intrude, but the thunder made the decision for her. I made coffee again. It had become this quiet ritual neither of us mentioned, the thing that made our silences bearable. She sat on the old stool near the counter, watching the rain slide down the windows. The light flickered. Her coat was damp at the shoulders, strands of hair curling against her neck. I tried not to stare. Failed anyway. You really should fix that light, she said, nodding toward the ceiling. I kind of like it, I said. Makes the place feel alive. She smiled, faint but real. Alive, she repeated, like she hadn't used the word in a while. For a few minutes, neither of us said anything. Just rain, coffee, the hum of the old refrigerator. I could feel her presence, not close, but near enough that every breath seemed shared. Then her phone buzzed. She flinched. The sound was small but sharp. Her expression changed, just slightly, before she turned the screen face down on the counter. Everything okay? I asked. It's fine, she said too quickly. Then, after a beat, softer, it's my ex. He's persistent. I didn't push. But her shoulders were tight, and she rubbed her wrist absently, the same way she had when she was nervous before. You don't have to answer, I said. She looked at me, eyes searching. That easy, huh? Just not answer. Sometimes, I said, it's the only way to keep peace. Her gaze stayed on me a second too long, and for the first time, I couldn't read it. It wasn't gratitude. It wasn't sadness either. Something heavier, recognition, maybe. You talk like someone who's already learned the hard way, she said. Maybe, I murmured. Or maybe I'm just good at pretending I have. That made her laugh, quiet and unguarded. The kind that filled the whole room. And for that single breath of sound, it felt like everything else, the rain, the phone, the years between us, didn't exist. She leaned forward, elbows on the counter. You shouldn't make me laugh like that, she said. Why not? Because it makes it too easy to forget I shouldn't be here. Something shifted in the air, like the space between us thinned. My hand was near hers, close enough that I could feel the heat from her skin. Neither of us moved. The flickering light buzzed above us, steadying for a moment. Her phone vibrated again, louder this time. She looked down, exhaled, and stood abruptly. I should go, she said, voice uneven. Yeah, I said, though I didn't mean it. She reached for the door, paused, then turned back just slightly. Her eyes met mine, rainlight reflecting in them. If I stay next time, she said quietly, don't let me. Then she left, and for the rest of the night, I sat there, staring at her untouched cup, wondering if she actually wanted me to listen. Weeks passed before I saw her again, long enough that I'd almost convinced myself I wouldn't. Then, one evening, she was just there, standing by the counter like nothing had been left unsaid. The same coat, the same quiet eyes. But something about her was different, like she'd been holding her breath the whole time we'd been apart. I was driving past, she said. The light was on. That's a terrible excuse, I said. I know. We both laughed, softly, the kind that ends too soon. Then the quiet came back, thicker than before. She walked around the shop like she needed to move, touching small things, a wrench, a stack of receipts, just to have something to do with her hands. "You still don't sleep much?" she asked. "Not really. Me neither." That silence again. I hated it and needed it all at once. Finally, she stopped near the workbench, leaning against it, head tilted down. "You ever feel like you're living in between moments?" she said. "Like the real thing already happened, and everything after is just waiting?" I nodded slowly. "Yeah, I know that feeling." She looked at me then, really looked. The air shifted, like something fragile was about to break. "I shouldn't be here," she said. And yet, she stopped. I stepped closer without thinking, close enough that I could smell rain on her coat, the faint trace of coffee. And yet what? Her eyes flickered. Fear, longing, confusion, all crowding at once. "And yet I keep ending up here. With you. Like I'm trying to prove something to myself." "What are you trying to prove?" "That I can still feel something and not ruin it." I didn't know what to say. My throat was tight, every word too big to fit. So I said nothing. She took a shaky breath. "You remind me of possibility. Of before everything got complicated." "I'm not sure what that means," I said quietly. "It means you're dangerous," she said, and it wasn't angry. It was almost tender. "You make me want to forget who I'm supposed to be." Her voice broke on the last word. And then there was nothing. No thunder, no movement. Just that unbearable stillness between us. I could have reached for her. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But something about the way she looked at me, like she was already mourning whatever this was, stopped me. She swallowed, eyes shining in the dim light. "Tell me this isn't real," she whispered. "Just say it so I can believe it." I opened my mouth, but the truth sat too close to the surface, too loud to lie over. So I didn't answer. Her hand brushed the edge of the counter, once, lightly, like she was memorizing it. Then she turned away, her voice barely audible. "I think I've already gone too far." And then she was gone again, leaving behind a silence that felt heavier than any touch. She didn't come by for a month after that night. Not once. I told myself I was fine with it, that maybe it had been better to let whatever that was fade quietly into the background. But some evenings, when the light hit the doorway just right, I'd catch myself glancing up, expecting to see her there. Then, one morning, I found something waiting on the counter. A white envelope with my name written in pen that looked like it had hesitated before every curve. No return address. Inside was a folded photograph. Old, faded, edges soft from being handled too often. It showed her standing beside a man, tall, confident, mid-40s. His arm around her shoulders, her smile wide, but not the same smile I knew. Something about it looked forced. Behind them, the corner of a car, familiar in shape. My heart caught. It was her car, the one I'd fixed that first night. On the back of the photo was a line in her handwriting. "He loved that car more than me." Maybe that's why I couldn't let it die. No signature. No explanation. I stood there for a long time, the morning sun bleeding through the garage windows, turning the picture almost gold. There was a tremor somewhere under my ribs, not from sadness, exactly. More like realization. I thought of the way she'd always touched the hood before leaving. The way her hand lingered there, like it was a grave marker. Later that day, she walked in again, no warning, no apology. Just her, standing there with her coat half open, hair loose, eyes tired. "You got it," she said softly, nodding toward the envelope in my hand. I nodded back. "Yeah. I shouldn't have left it," she said. "It wasn't fair to you." "It's okay." "No, it's not." She crossed her arms, like she was trying to hold herself together. "That was my husband. He died 3 years ago. Heart attack. In that car." The air went still. "I didn't even know why I kept it," she continued. "Every time I drove it, I told myself it was just practical, but it wasn't. It was punishment. I thought if I could fix it, maybe I could fix everything else." Her voice trembled, the first crack I'd ever heard from her. "Then you fixed it instead." And I didn't know how to feel about that. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. She took a step closer, eyes glistening. "You remind me of him sometimes. But not how he was, how I wanted him to be. Gentle, curious, still trying." Her voice broke on that last word. For a second, it felt like she'd said something she couldn't take back. I reached out, almost without thinking, to touch her sleeve. Just enough for her to know I'd heard her, really heard her. She didn't pull away this time. And in that quiet, shaking space between us, I realized something neither of us wanted to admit. She hadn't come here to remember him. She'd come here to forget. The next time she came by, it was morning. No rain this time, no excuse. Just sunlight pooling on the floor, dust drifting in it like slow, weightless thoughts. She stood in the doorway for a while before speaking. "You're early." "I never left," I said without thinking. She smiled, tired, knowing. That's not healthy. Probably not. Something in that exchange, the way she didn't correct me, the way she didn't walk away, made the air softer. There was no pretending now, no need for small talk to protect what had already been broken open. I poured coffee again, mostly because it gave my hand something to do. She took the mug, fingers brushing mine. Neither of us mentioned it, but neither of us looked away either. We sat on opposite sides of the small table near the window, watching the light crawl slowly across the floor. She looked older in that light, not worn, just real. Lines that told stories, eyes that didn't hide anymore. "I didn't plan any of this," she said finally. "I know. It's strange," she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "You walk around believing certain parts of you are gone, used up, and then someone reminds you they're still there. Is that good or bad?" I asked. She considered that. "Both, I think. It means I have to feel things again. And that's inconvenient." We both laughed quietly. It felt almost dangerous to break the silence, like laughing in a church. I leaned forward a little. "You don't have to apologize for feeling." "I'm not apologizing." Her tone softened. "I'm terrified." There it was. The truth. Laid bare without ceremony, without self-defense. She looked at me, eyes steady, unblinking. "You make me feel safe," she said. "And that's exactly why I shouldn't stay." I wanted to argue, but she didn't give me the chance. She reached across the table, her hand finding mine. Not searching, not trembling, just finding. Her palm was warm, the kind of warmth that doesn't rush, it settles. No words after that. None would have fit. We sat there, her thumb tracing the edge of my hand, her eyes glinting with everything we couldn't say. The shop was quiet except for the low hum of the fridge and the faint rhythm of her breathing syncing with mine. After a while, she whispered, "I don't want to ruin this by naming it." "You won't," I said. "Yes, I will," she murmured, looking away. "Everything changes once you call it something." So we didn't. We just sat there in that fragile peace. Two people who had already crossed the invisible line but didn't need to move an inch further to know it. Outside, the sun climbed higher, flooding the room with light that made every shadow vanish. Her hand stayed on mine until it didn't have to anymore. And when she finally stood to leave, neither of us said goodbye. Just a look, quiet, steady, that said everything we weren't brave enough to keep. It's been almost a year since that morning. The shop's the same cracked floor tiles, same flickering light that still refuses to die. Some days, I forget what we were. Other days, I remember every second of it. The sound of her laugh when she tried to hide it. The way she'd rest her hand on the hood of her car, like it was a memory she couldn't let go of. The way silence between us used to mean more than any conversation. I still keep her photo in the drawer, not the one with her husband, but the one I took on my phone one afternoon when she wasn't looking. She was standing by the window, eyes half closed, sunlight hitting her hair like it was trying to learn her shape. I never showed her. It didn't feel like something that needed to be shared. We don't talk anymore. Not out of anger or loss, but because we said what we needed to, even if most of it wasn't in words. There are connections that don't survive ordinary life. They're meant to open something, not last forever. I understand that now. Before her, I thought love was supposed to be something you earned. A finish line, proof that you'd done things right. But she taught me it's quieter than that. It's showing up, staying present, and sometimes walking away before you start breaking the thing you love just by trying to hold it. People ask me sometimes if I've ever been in love. I never know how to answer. I say once, but what I really mean is, not the kind you can name. I've caught myself repeating her words lately. In my head, when things get too heavy, everything changes once you call it something. Maybe that's why I never tried to label what we had. Maybe that's why it still feels untouched, even after all this time. Last week, her car came by again, not her driving though. Someone else. I recognized it instantly by the dent near the handle and the way the back left light still flickered when it braked. I stood outside the shop as it passed, a flash of old silver disappearing down the road. And I smiled. Because for the first time, I didn't feel the ache. Just warmth. The kind that comes when something finally settles where it belongs, not in your life, but somewhere quieter. I think we were both trying to heal something we didn't have names for. Maybe we did. Maybe we didn't. But we were kind to each other when it mattered most. And maybe that's enough. Love doesn't always need to be forever to be real. Sometimes, it just needs to make you softer. That's what she did for me. And if you've ever met someone who made you feel too much, in all the right and wrong ways, you know exactly what I mean. Tell me, would you have stayed?